everyone, as you can see the topic for this revision video is Theravada, Mahayana and Vajrayana Buddhism. For this revision video there's only one learning outcome, which is to identify the similarities and differences of these three types of Buddhism. Possible exam questions. In 2012 this B question came up. Do you think Theravada Buddhism is the only true form of Buddhism? For that you would need two developed reasons. In 2011 this question came up. Explain why Mahayana Buddhism has certain features. 2013, well, we could get a variation on either of these two questions. You could be asked, this is a D question, for example, having a statement, Theravada Buddhism is the only true form of Buddhism. Do you agree? Give reasons why someone might disagree with you. You could have explain why Theravada Buddhism has certain features. You could also have explain why Vajrayana Buddhism has certain features. I've put this as a possible exam question as well. Vajrayana Buddhism is not true Buddhism, so for that you'd need to be able to explain arguments on both sides. And the idea with this revision video and also the revision booklet which I produced for you is to make you fully confident about answering all or any of these questions. So keywords for this video: Theravada, what does it mean? The way of the elders, that's all you'd need to write down in the exam if you were asked an A question, what is Theravada, or what is meant by Theravada. It's the type of Buddhism which is found in Southeast Asia, for example Thailand. Here are some Thai Buddhist monks. Mahayana, what does that mean? All you would need to write down in the exam is this: the great vehicle. Maha means great, Yana means vehicle. Buddhism, which is characterized by the Bodhisattva vow. So Mahayana Buddhists quite often take something called a Bodhisattva vow, where they vow to promise to achieve enlightenment for the sake of all other beings in the universe, all sentient beings, so not just for themselves, in other words. Here we have some Mahayana monks, statues of the Buddha, and also statues of Bodhisattvas. One of the distinctive features of a Mahayana vihara is the presence of statues of Bodhisattvas. Vajrayana, what does that mean? All you would need to write down in the exam if you were asked an A question about Vajrayana Buddhism is the diamond vehicle. It's also known as Tantric Buddhism. And here is a ritual object which is actually called a Vajra. So why do these three types of Buddhism exist? Well, Buddhism started off in northern India, around here, and then it spread to different areas, different countries at different periods. So in the 3rd century BCE it travelled to Sri Lanka and Burma, and that's what we have today as Theravada Buddhism. But Buddhism continued to develop, evolve, or from a Theravada point of view get corrupted, and then that later form of Buddhism was subsequently transmitted to China, and from there to Korea and Japan. And then after that period Buddhism changed again, evolved in different ways, and from the point of view of Theravada Buddhism and also Mahayana Buddhism generally, there is this belief that it then became more corrupted and travelled to Tibet. Tibetan Buddhists, Vajrayana Buddhists don't see it that way. They see themselves as having the most complete version of Buddhism, but there is a tendency within Theravada Buddhism to see it as a corruption. So if we look at the Buddhist world today, we've basically got three geographical areas. We've got Theravada Buddhism down here, we've got Mahayana Buddhism over here, and we've got Vajrayana Buddhism over here, and that reflects the three sort of major historical transmissions of Indian Buddhism to the rest of the Buddhist world. So the scriptures of Theravada Buddhism, it's the Pali Canon. There's an entire revision video about the Tipitaka which I encourage you to watch, and also the Dhammapada, which is part of the Tipitaka. Theravada Buddhists do not think that other forms of Buddhism, so Mahayana Buddhism, Vajrayana Buddhism, are based on the teachings of the Buddha. They don't accept the Mahayana Sutras or the Vajrayana Tantras as being the word of the Buddha. Theravada Buddhists only accept the historical Buddha and the teachings that they historically link to him, and anything else is rejected. Now there's other bits of information on this screen I'm not going to read it all out. If you want to read it, then what you need to do is just simply look into your written revision guide or pause the screen. Possible exam questions that you might be asked on this topic. Do you think Theravada Buddhism is the only true form of Buddhism? And explain the distinctive features of Theravada Buddhism. So within this slide, within the information here, and within your written printed revision guide, you have the information you'd need to write A-star answers to all of that, so make sure you study those pages. Mahayana Buddhism. Mahayana Buddhism developed in India somewhere between the 2nd century BCE and the 1st century, so in other words after Theravada Buddhism. That's what most Western scholars would say anyway. Mahayana Buddhists believe that everything, you and I and everyone, has Buddha nature, which means the potential to reach enlightenment. So the process of attaining enlightenment is a search within ourselves to discover who we are. Now this is important, so I will read it out. Mahayana Buddhism really emphasizes compassion very strongly, and the ideal within Mahayana Buddhism is to become a bodhisattva. A bodhisattva is a being who is destined to become a Buddha and who helps all living things, practices 6 perfections to try and help all beings in the universe, for example, patience, compassion, etc. Possible exam questions you might be asked. Explain why Mahayana Buddhism has certain features. Because of the time limit on this revision video, I'm not going to talk about the information here which would help you answer that, but please again study the information in your revision booklet. Vajrayana Buddhism. So Vajrayana Buddhism could be seen as part of Mahayana Buddhism, and the 4 schools of Tibetan Buddhism would see it in that way. But Vajrayana Buddhism and Theravada Buddhism lay the basis for Vajrayana practice. Now, Vajrayana practice is believed by Vajrayana Buddhists to be very advanced, possibly dangerous in the wrong hands. It's advanced techniques which can enable you to achieve enlightenment more quickly than other traditions, so more quickly than you can achieve enlightenment within Theravada Buddhism, and more quickly than you can achieve enlightenment within Mahayana Buddhism. But as you may remember from Super Learning Day, it was kind of compared to a plane as a vehicle. So a plane can get you to a destination very quickly, but you really need to know what you're doing, otherwise you could have a real disaster on your hands. So many of the teachings of Vajrayana Buddhism are kept secret and only transmitted to people who are considered to be well qualified to receive them. Possible exam question, explain why Vajrayana Buddhism has certain features. Again, study your revision guide to find out all the information that you need. It is all there, everything that you need to write an A-star answer. There is also, for this particular question, a model answer in the Unit 2 of 2010 exam paper video, which is on this YouTube channel. So, quickly, Theravada Buddhism is generally regarded by its followers as the only true form of Buddhism. Mahayana Buddhism, in addition to the teachings of the Tipitaka, has other scriptures, sutras, for example the Lotus Sutra. In addition to the teachings of the Tipitaka and the Mahayana Sutras, Vajrayana Buddhism has secret teachings called Tantras. All 3 accept the Buddha as their teacher. Theravada and Mahayana Buddhists generally reject the Vajrayana Tantras. Both Mahayana Buddhism and Vajrayana Buddhism emphasize that the Bodhisattva ideal is a superior goal to the personal Nibbana of Theravada Buddhism. And despite the many differences between Theravada Buddhism and Vajrayana Buddhism, both have the 4 Noble Truths at their heart. It might be worth making a copy of this diagram as part of your revision. So hopefully you would feel more confident about answering these exam questions now. I'm going to give our learning outcome a tick, and thank you for watching this video.